Hi, ladies and gentlemen, Christoph the Polish Geek welcomes you to another video. And I decided to do a video of why I'm no longer watching House of the Dragon. Why I basically completely lost interest in the show. I actually lost that interest during season 2. By that time I completely lost interest, but at the same time, now that season 3 is going on around with plenty of people praising it, loving it, and talking about it, and me having to sit through the first 3 episodes because my sister, when she was here, she very much wanted to watch it with me, and you gotta be a good brother, right? So I will tell you why I completely lost interest. And my sister, by the way, no, she has not. Quite the opposite. She's still very much into the show, and whenever we were finishing an episode, she was so excited and saying, "Wow, I love those shows so much." And I'm happy for her. I'm happy that she still very much loves the show, but for me, I just lost interest. But first I'll tell you how it all went. The first season of House of the Dragon I did quite like, actually, and even by the end of it I was feeling, wow, that was so good. I'm actually interested in what will happen next. Game of Thrones, the world of Westeros is back, baby. Although I still didn't think it was even half as good as seasons 1 to 4 of Game of Thrones. But then again, that was a very high bar to clear, so expecting it to be even half as good was quite unfair, so I was very much taking that into consideration. And also, another thing is that what I also did like, and that was the one thing I think it done better than early Game of Thrones seasons before the show completely went off the rails, but the one thing I thought it done better is the design, the set designs, and the costumes. They felt much closer to how George R. R. Martin actually described them in The Song of Ice and Fire, because the thing that people who haven't read the books, which I bet are vast majority, but the thing that people who haven't read the Song of Ice and Fire books don't know is that the costumes, as described by George R. R. Martin of the characters, are actually often very colorful and bright with such a variety of colors. Like, I'll give you an example of the Boltons. The Boltons are often actually described as wearing pink and red outfit, kind of representing their bloody nature. But what the show changed is that it pretty much changed the clothes, especially in the north, to brownish, grayish, and kind of dullish. Maybe in King's Landing, yeah, sure, in King's Landing the clothes were certainly more bright and colorful, but in vast majority of Westeros they were kind of changed to grayish, brownish, and dull, which once again is very much not consistent with how George R. R. Martin described. Again, the outfits and costumes as described in Song of Ice and Fire were pretty colorful, and I thought that that was the one thing that House of the Dragon has in fact done better than Game of Thrones. Like, the costumes and the set designs felt much closer to how George R. R. Martin described. So that was certainly the one thing it's done better. And once again, as I said, by the end of season 1, I thought it was quite good, and I was quite entertained, and I was very much looking forward to more to see where it happens. And then, like in 2024, season 2 came out, and I was kinda excited, at least I was telling myself, but there was this deep hidden part of me that was very much couldn't still get over about the trashy ending of season 8 of Game of Thrones. So when my sister visited, we were again watching season 2 of House of the Dragon, and while I was thinking, wow, this is more like first 4 seasons of Game of Thrones, I'm so happy, but then constantly the thought of why did this amazing show have to end like that just kept returning, because that's the thing. As much as I thought it was quite good, I was thinking that it was still nowhere near as good as the first 4 seasons of Game of Thrones, which, by the way, again, it was a very high bar to clear, so that shouldn't be a problem. So why was it? Well, because it kept reminding me of what an amazing quality show Game of Thrones once was before going completely off the rails to give us the worst ending in TV show history. And I was thinking, sure, House of the Dragon is complete, so there is no reason it will end in the same trashy way, but at the same time it was just hurting that Game of Thrones used to be such an amazing quality show with so much political intriguing, fascinating characters, amazing conversations, only to give probably the worst ending in TV show history. And that's pretty much was what my feeling was during season 2 of House of the Dragon. And I kept trying to force myself, again, this is a different show. Yeah, it's not as good as the first 4 seasons, but no reason why it can't be good. And it's very valid reasoning, and I'm pretty sure a lot of the fans of the show very much feel that way. And I completely understand. And I'm actually happy for you. So if you're still loving the show and completely are able to enjoy it as its own individual thing, which it technically is meant to be anyway, then I'm very much happy for you and I fully root for you in that. But unfortunately for me, it's just impossible. It's almost as if you're basically just watching a movie of your loved one who's died and seeing their accomplishments and all, and then just remember they're not with you anymore. And this is how I very much felt as I was watching House of the Dragon season 2. Like, I was realizing it was still nowhere near as good as first 4 seasons of Game of Thrones, other than better costumes, as I said, and ultimately it was just impossible for me to keep pushing through it. And then the worst part, then me and my sister watched the very last episode of season 2 and we felt so underwhelmed, like most people actually, since the episode basically nothing happened. It basically opened so open-ended, basically setting up what was about to happen and then leaving it for season 3. And now that season 3 is out, also combined with the fact that like 2 years have passed, which is another problem that plenty of modern TV actually does. Huge, long breaks, which as a result, people completely lose interest. Like, look at the break between season 4 and season 5 of Stranger Things. I mean, the ending of Stranger Things was pretty bad and underwhelming, but that's ultimately a different story. But I'm pretty sure the long gap certainly didn't help. I mean, it'll be bad even with a very short gap, but once again, it certainly didn't help. And by the way, now that I've been watching first 3 episodes of House of the Dragon with my sister, because she's still very much into the show, that very much reaffirmed. I just completely lost interest. My sister is still very much into it, and she was even very much saying, wow, I love that show so much after the end of each episode, and I'm happy for her, and I'm pretty sure that's how most people still seem to feel about it. All I'm explaining is why I personally lost interest. And again, if you're still interested in House of the Dragon, and if you are a fan of Westeros, and you probably are, then I'm happy for you and I'm rooting for you to watch it. I'm just explaining why I am no longer interested. But what I am very much interested and invested in, A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. But what works so well in the favor of A Knight in the Seven Kingdoms is that this show takes place in Westeros, but it's a very different type of a story. And when you're watching A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, while you do know you watch a story that takes place in Westeros, you also know that you're watching a very, very different type of the show. So you can completely, at least for me, it's very easy to separate The Knight of the Seven Kingdoms and just enjoy it as its own thing. In fact, I'm pretty sure fans of heroic fantasy would even go as far as to say it's better than both Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon. Which, do I agree with that? Well, yes and no. I still think early seasons of Game of Thrones is some of the most quality TV you will ever find, but I certainly do love what A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms is doing with its more classical heroic fantasy approach. But whatever, ultimately, I just lost interest in House of the Dragon, and I will probably be watching more when my sister asks me to see more of season 3 with her, and she probably will next time we see each other, but certainly not by myself, and I'm just not interested in that. But I am in A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, like I very much can't wait for season 2. Really loved season 1 and just can't wait for season 2. But here you guys have why I lost interest in House of the Dragon. And thank you all of you for checking out this video. Press the like button, please subscribe to this channel, and I will talk to you soon in another video. Talk to you then, bye!